With finals coming up, we're going to do a cumulative review on solving quadratic equations. So let's start with how to solve by taking the square root. So what you want to do is get the squared quantity alone and then square root both sides. And remember, when you square root both sides of an equation, you have to remember that there are two possibilities, the positive and the negative. Okay, so if you have 9x squared minus 7 equals 605, you want to get the squared quantity alone first. So we're going to add 7 on both sides of the equation. So on the left side, you just have the 9x squared left, and then on the right side, you have 612, and then try to, again, get the squared quantity alone. So right now, it's being multiplied by 9, so we want to divide both sides by 9. And let's make sure that that's actually divisible. So 6 plus 1 plus 2 gives us 9, so that means that it is divisible by 9. So 9 goes into 61 6 times, and that's 54. And then 61 minus 54 is 7. So 9 goes into 72 8 times. And then in order to solve for x, we would square root both sides. And remember, when you square root both sides of an equation, you have to remember that there are always two possibilities, the positive and the negative, and we have the square root of 68. And if that's simplifiable, we want to simplify it, and if not, then we would leave it like that. So let's double check. So if we break up 68 into its primes, well, 2 goes in, 2 goes to 68 34 times, and in 34, 2 also goes in, 2 goes into 3 1 time with 1 left over, and 2 goes into 14 7 times. And so we have a pair of 2's. So in order to simplify this radical, this would be a positive or negative 2 because the pair goes on the outside, and the one that is unpaired stays inside of the radical. So we have two possibilities, the positive 2 rad 17 and then the negative 2 rad 17. Okay, now it's the same thing if you have a quantity squared. You want to get the squared quantity alone first and then square root both sides. So again, we're going to subtract both sides by 4 first. So you still have an x minus 5 squared, and then 40 minus 4 gives us 36. Now at this point, you have two options. You could multiply this out, so by foiling, and then try to solve for x, or a better way to do it would just be to, okay, now that you have the squared quantity alone, how do you undo that? And remember, the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So we're just going to square root both sides. And then again, whenever you square root both sides, you have two possibilities, the positive and the negative. And the square root of 36 is just 6. Square root and square cancel each other out because they're opposite operations. And so all you have left on the left side is just an x minus 5. Then to solve for x, or to get x alone, you would add 5 to both sides. And this is just a convention again. Normally, the one that we know for sure the sign of, the positive 5, we usually put that first. And then the one that we're not sure of, the one that can be a positive or a negative, we usually put that afterwards. So it's a 5 plus or minus a 6. We would never do plus or minus 6 plus 5. Okay, that's just not what we would normally write. Okay, and then you again get two answers. So first, because this simplifies together, we're going to actually do the addition and do the subtraction. So 5 plus 6 would be 11. And then if it was a minus, it'd be 5 minus 6, which gives us negative 1. So our two answers for this are 11 and negative 1. If it's not simplifiable, then we would just leave it as a positive or negative radical, or some people might separate it